Anjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svavadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gita Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahajatam Sahaganam Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sadhana Shri Krishna Vilamsya He Krishna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopirakanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Jayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you very much for attending the part 2 of this discussion on the art of discussion. Let's do a quick review of what we discussed last time and then we can continue on from today. So any points that you remember from last time that we can write down?
Did you ask what was the one thing you liked the most about the programs or that stood out more?
Right. Yes, so we
did
discussed
a whole list of that.
Right. But specifically regarding, that was the introduction part of it and all that, but specifically regarding discussion, the art of discussion, where, because we left at a particular point and we want to restart from there.
I must remember the history, so engaging.
Yes, the history of this. Yes.
Contribution.
Yeah. We actually will be doing a whole session on that, history and division and things like that. But regarding discussion,
we want interaction.
yes, so interaction. So in a Bhakti Vriksha group, main focus is on interaction.
Developing relationships.
Developing. Through discussion, you mean?
Oh, not just through discussion, but also you said something about a mentor and always you have somebody above you and someone below you.
Right. So we were giving a preview of what are the sessions that are going to come up. And one of them was each one teach one, which will require a whole session. But right now we are only focusing on the art of discussion. When you conduct the Bhakti Vriksha program, the main aspect of conducting the gathering itself is to make it more interactive. And so discussion is one of the ways to make it more interactive. So we discussed some ways that we try to make a discussion interactive, how to facilitate a discussion, and we ended at a particular point. That's what we are trying to review, so that we can move on with the part 2 of the hour of discussion.
The discussion is not like a speaker,
Yes, discussion is not like one speaker, but person is facilitating everyone else to speak and discuss.
Yes, you have a purpose, so the facilitator has to explain in the beginning that I may have to bring the discussion back on track if it goes off.
Yes, the facilitator decides the rules. He communicates the rules before the discussion. Hare Krishna, you have the front seats ready for you.
Yeah, we saved the front seats for you.
Thank you all for coming. We are just reviewing the last session that we discussed. So, what else?
You appreciate other people's views.
Okay, appreciate other people's views. Yes, and there is a little caveat to it. There is a little word of caution on that. Sometimes their views may not be fully Krishna conscious. There may be some speculation that they are coming up with. And when the facilitator appreciates and says, yes, you are right to something, we have to be mindful that whatever their views are, they get solidified. So, oh wow, someone said this is right. So we have to be careful to only acknowledge the views that are in sync with Krishna consciousness while not putting them off. For example, if someone says that, God is formless, there is a discussion about God is going on or something, you say God is formless. Now here, the facilitator is in a fix. He doesn't want to discourage the other person. At the same time, the facilitator and all the understanding, Krishna conscious understanding, cannot acknowledge that view too. So here an example could be where Prabhupada used this. He said, yes, you are right, God is formless, but He also has a form, and He also has a form. So Prabhupada actually acknowledged the part of truth that his statement was having, and he added another. He said, you are right, but you are incomplete in that sense. So, but if it is said, yes, you are right, any other views? So then he says, wow, okay, God is formless, and it just sinks in. Sometimes when people say God is formless, something, they are just saying not because they truly believe in it. It's just that they have heard from somewhere, from someone, and now this is a spiritual discussion. You are asking them to say something, so here you go. I'll just say whatever I heard. But if you say, no, you are a Mayavadi, how can you say that God is formless? Get out of here. That kind. Then they get put off because they really didn't believe in it. So the facilitator needs to know a little bit of judo. In judo, how when the rule is, if someone comes to attack, then you use the same force and just deflect it. Not confront the force. If it's coming with some force, don't confront it. Just deflect it and use it against him or use it in your favor in some way. So a facilitator has to do some things like that. But yes, appreciate their views, at the same time has to know how to.
Another point you mentioned is that you can build on their ideas. You listen to their ideas and then you build on them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I think these are the things that we had discussed. We also discussed the power of waiting. Does anyone remember the power of waiting?
Yes. Silence is golden.
I think you should improve from
So these were some of the discussions we had. Through careful listening, one learns to build upon others' ideas. thinking skills can also be sharpened. So when we are having a discussion if there's a discussion, someone is asking a question, then everyone is forced to think what the answer is. And then when they think, they do some introspection, they themselves come up with some answer. Or someone comes with an answer and they may say, well, I don't know if I agree completely with that. And we have seen if it's a Western group, people are very frank about it, that I don't really agree with you. If it's an Indian group, sometimes even if they don't agree, they'll be like, okay, they won't be so forthcoming. But still, everyone is thinking. So again, as we discussed, as you said, the facilitator has to communicate the rules. So his discussion leader or the facilitator goal is not transfer of information, but to establish a focus, set boundaries, and facilitate interaction. Sometimes when the facilitator is leading the discussion, naturally people ask questions to the facilitator. In between, if they have questions, they'll ask the facilitator. The natural tendency is, if the facilitator is well read, is to answer the question immediately. And then, eventually what happens is it becomes a question-answer session, which is okay in itself. But if you really want to do a discussion, then sometimes a facilitator can deflect the question to the audience, to everyone else. What do you all think about it? And after people have shared their thoughts, then he can give the Krishna conscious conclusion. Because again, we are making people to think.
And also make sure that the question is in line with the topic that is being discussed, because if the question is out of boundary from the, like say for example, if we are discussing on the soul and a question is asked about the three modes of material nature, you can very well say that this question is coming up, it will be answered in the later sessions, or that we can take this question offline later. So let's stick to the, to the subject, to the topic. So.
And that is something which Gurujan Prabhu emphasizes in his book, The Art of Teaching. And these presentations are taken from his book, The Art of Teaching by Gurujan Prabhu and Bhakti Vriksha by Jayapataka Maharaj. And he specifically stresses these 2 points, that the discussion leader, even though he may be knowledgeable, he needs to control his first impulse of answering the question, but just set the boundaries, facilitate interaction, and he directs the group so that the group feels that they have come up with a solution on their own, with an understanding on their own. Now, if we are talking about people coming to a Bhakti Vriksha group, many of them come to learn also. So if they come and they say, well, I'm coming here and I'm just sharing and I'm giving to the group, but I'm not getting anything back, then that is also an issue. So we should have a good balance of the group learning something, at the same time sharing something. Again, as we discussed, he communicates the rules, and it's best to say before the interaction that my role is to facilitate answers from the groups and give summary, and I may have to sometimes interrupt the discussion. Then you have the authority. Then if the discussion is going some different direction, you can interrupt and bring it back. But if you have not set that rule before and not mentioned it specifically, it becomes intrusive and people may think, you have something against me personally, that's why you're not letting me speak. Why did you let the other person speak, and all these issues come.
But this part is very important, to give the summary, because people, what Prabhu was mentioning, that people who come with the mentality that they want to learn something from the group, that are coming here to learn. So this aspect of giving the summary will make them feel that yes, they are learning something. The facilitator giving a nice conclusion based on everybody's discussion, but giving a nice summary to the entire question, summing it up, that makes them feel that yes, we have learned something, from a person like that.
I think we discussed this point. Yeah. So this is again saying the same thing, that this is typically in a discussion where there are no questions. Sometimes a group may just come, read a verse from the Gita or read some purport or read some article, and then now let's start discussing. So here there are no guidelines as to what to discuss on, what is the topic. So the discussion leader has to come up with certain questions. So that's what it's saying, that it may start with a question answer session, but eventually it has to have interaction. But in the Bhakti Vriksha format, the discussions have questions under discovery, understanding and application. We'll know more about that, and these questions guide the discussion. This is again a discussion without any question. In a Bhakti Vriksha program you won't encounter this so much. But if you do, for example, someone forgets to bring printouts. It has happened sometimes of the discussion. Now you just have one verse. So okay, no need to panic. You can just, if you have a Gita or if you have some book, everyone can read one passage from that place. But now you have to be a little more creative because you don't have the standard questions. And here you can actually start by asking, what are the 2 or 3 main ideas in the passage that we just read? So, just like when we started this discussion last week, the first question was, what is it that stands out in Bhakti Vriksha? So something like that. What are some points? So everyone can say a few points, and then discussion can go from there. But then in that kind of a discussion, it's not very structured. People don't know what they're getting out of it. If there are set questions and everyone has a sheet in front of them to keep referring to, they are able to relate to it much better.
But this was, really more applicable when we started Bhakti Vriksha in 1995. The first Bhakti Vriksha, when we didn't really have the materials that we are using now because they were not developed. So this is what we used to do. This is exactly what we used to do. We used to read one verse from the Bhagavad Gita or Science of Self-Realization if it's very new people, and then ask them this question. And this is how the Bhakti Vrikshas would be done till at least 5 to 6 months till new materials were actually developed. So, but this is, not done now, not needed now because we have, all the materials available and everything is there. So, this is not really needed right now.
Right, and as part of doing what we have done, we got like a dozen of Bhagavad Gita and we project the questions. So that way they can refer, they can know the The sheet they give it back to them.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
So they can give Bhagavad Gita, they can mark it.
As long as they have ready reference of what the questions are and where they can find answers themselves.
Right.
You want to talk about this? We discussed this a little bit, but...
Okay, this was what the power of waiting. Sometimes when the question is asked, after everybody reads, different passages and then everyone has read the questions also, we've come to the end of the edification. The facilitator says, okay, now we'll take a couple minutes and we'll just ponder on the answers to these questions individually and then come back in the group and we'll have a group discussion. So when you actually end up in the group discussion, when you start, when you ask the first question, everyone is looking at you. Since you are asking the question, everyone will look at you. Everyone is quiet. Like how all of you are looking at me right now. I am quiet. I can wait. So the 30-second pressure build-up will be on me. But if I continue to choose to stay quiet, the pressure will then slowly shift to all of you. And then one of you will have to speak up. Now if you still don't speak up, if nobody still speaks up, then the pressure will again fall upon me. After 30 seconds, it will again come back to me. That time I should understand that maybe they have not understood the question in the first place. So then the facilitator can break up the problem, break up the question, maybe make it a little more simplified. Say for example, the question is, what are the real problems of life? Just an example. If that is a question, and everybody is blanked out, nobody has any idea what's going on. So you can say, okay, so what do you understand by a problem? What is a problem? What is the definition of problem? That way you can start, not that since the pressure is built upon you back, so now you say, okay, birth, death, old age, disease, that's the real problem of life, okay, let's move on. No, that's not the solution. Never do that, because you remember the one thing is, the golden rule is that you have to get the answer from them, from everybody else. So do whatever it takes for them to be able to speak. Do whatever it takes. So you might have to break up the question, like you can say, okay, what do you mean by problem? So they'll say, okay, problem means something that I have and I don't want it, or something that I don't have and I want it. That is a simple definition of what a problem is, right? That is the definition of problem. So in that light, then what is real problem? So real problem means that it has to be universal. Like student has their own set of problems, householders have own set of problems, everybody has their own set of problems. So what is the difference between problem and a real problem? So real problem means it has to be universal to everybody, it has to be applicable to everybody. And then it has to be that if you solve that problem, all your other problems will be automatically solved. That is the real problem. So in this light now, what are the real problems? So then you say birth, death, old age, disease, and with that answer, then you verify, okay, according to the definition of real problem, that it is universal. So birth, death, old age, disease, even a child has to undergo, even a 70-year-old person has to undergo. Everybody has to undergo these 4 problems. So it is universal. And once this is solved, all the other small things are automatically solved. So in this way, the facilitator really helps in facilitating and getting the answers out from them, which is in a very done in a very convincing kind of a way. So.
And if you give in to the pressure of silence, where audience is silent and then you panic and no one is speaking, and you give the answer, then they will learn to wait out on you. They will know, okay, if we just keep quiet for some time, this guy is going to give anything. But if
They might think you're in a meditation class.
Don't close your eyes, don't do that. Look at them, but don't stare them down. Yay. Now it's your turn to answer. Don't stare them down, but like how Prabhu is giving beautiful smile, smile across the room, smile at everybody gracefully, that I've got all the time in the world to wait for your answers.
What about choosing one of them? Like,
oh no, don't do that. Do not do that.
You can make a joke about it,
Okay.
but don't actually do it. You can say, well, if you don't speak, then I'll have to choose someone.
But don't do it.
Don't actually do it.
Because if you know them personally,
yes,
maybe.
yes.
But if there are new people present, and if they are seeing that you're picking somebody, okay, now you give the answer, then the new people will be terrorized. They'll think, oh no, if I don't speak, then I might be next. It's like a classroom kind of an audience. You don't want that. You don't want that.
Yeah, this is again the same thing. If the discussion leader is openly angry at the group, then it is even less like, why is no one speaking? Speak up!
It's supposed to be a discussion. I was told that it has to be a discussion. Come on, guys, participate. No.
So again, this, if used once, if the communication is, everyone knows, okay, this guy is going to speak, going to wait for as long as it takes for us to speak, then slowly they'll start jumping in.
And trust me, based on our experience for all these years, we've never had practical problems with this issue, because on principle, generally, every person, especially in Kali Yuga, loves to talk. So remember this as a general guideline. It's a golden rule. Everybody wants to talk. It's just that they need the right forum, and they will talk when they know that they are appreciated in some place. If they get the right kind of appreciation, they are in the right kind of forum, they will talk. No doubt about it that they will talk. So
you can use these techniques. As soon as you ask a question, start counting till 10. Don't speak up before you finish your count, and give a nice eye contact. Remain calm. If you need to break the silence, don't break the silence with the answer. Just say, any ideas at all? Anyone? Like that, just encouraging some more response. Your non-verbal message, I'm comfortable and can wait, will go to them.
Also the discovery section, the first one is in purport itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then they choose what is it.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll come to that. So if the first person speaks, now the pressure of silence is broken. The first person has spoken. Now others are okay. Now one of us have spoken. Now we can, and depending on the response that that person gets, the others will slowly jump in. If as soon as the first person speaks, you start judging the answer, saying, no, that is wrong, that's a wrong answer. You don't know what you're speaking, or something like that. You don't know what you're talking about.
Can't you
Then-
read? It's there right here.
Then others will go back into their shell again. So there's a lot of dynamics which goes on at that point. So you can say that's, even if it's not correct, you can say it's interesting. You're not saying it's right, you're not saying it's wrong. You can still say that's interesting. Good, thank you for your response. Or reframe it, if I understood you correctly, you're saying that such and such.
Because always remember that the people, even if they're sharing a wrong idea, if it is completely opposite, like say for example you're discussing Paramatma, an edification on Paramatma, and if someone comes and says, yeah, God is in my heart, God is in your heart, I'm also God, you're also God. You don't have to really, hammer him down on that point. There's no need. It's not that he's married to that idea. It's just an idea that he has. Maybe from the association that he has had, from, different books he has read. But he's not really married to that idea, unless he's a real academic scholar and he's really, having those staunch ideas. There could be some situations like that or cases like that, which is very, very rare. But mostly, people are not married to their ideas, And you can just say that, yeah, that's a very interesting point, and what does anyone else have to say? So you're not really negating him fully, but you're giving him room so that he can understand others' point of view also, appreciate their point of view, and then come to a conclusion again, giving them the final summary based on the edification. So that way you're not really putting down the ego of somebody, because it takes great courage for them to speak up, and if you're not encouraging at that point, then they'll never be able to speak up again. So we should remember that point.
So this is what we discussed. Cross-examination will frighten them. So again, we have discovery, understanding, and application. Before we get into that, we'll show a sample edification. But one of the questions, there are standard questions for each edification. But you can come up with your own questions also. It doesn't have to be just those. Depending on the group, you can come up with your own questions. But at least we should know how to formulate those questions to get the right answers and to get the right response. So rather than directly saying, what did Vidura say about renunciation in a particular passage? You could say, what sticks in your mind when you think of renunciation, or what does renunciation mean to you? That is more application oriented. This is a very theoretical question. What did Vidura say about renunciation? That means it's Vidura's views. I don't have to really agree with it. It's his views, and I can read it and say this is what he said. But it's very kind of disassociated from me. So everyone knows what Vidura said if they have read that edification. But the question is, what does it mean to you? Then that starts a discussion. Otherwise, it's just a one-line answer or two-line answer. It's not a discussion. So the discussion questions, the discovery questions are something like this. What did Vidura say about renunciation? So each edification has discovery, understanding, application. Few questions on discovery, few questions on understanding, few questions on application. The discovery section tells what we have discovered new today. Understanding is how do we understand, and application is something like this. What does renunciation mean to you? How is it applicable in your day-to-day life or our day-to-day life?
And one more thing in a conversation that sometimes really puts off people is when we start saying us and them. We start saying that I'm superior, I know it, and You don't. So therefore, like, what does renunciation mean to you? But include yourself also within that crowd. So not that, you all should be, thinking that when we are summarizing, we should not say, yeah, you all should be reading these books, or you all should be reading or chanting, doing this. It should be we. So we should all be doing this. So if they feel that, yes, you are considering yourself part of their team, they will be able to be more open-minded to accept what you have to say. But rather, if you are coming off as, I am the teacher and I am here to teach you, instruct you, it doesn't work like that. People, feel that classroom kind of mentality and they shut off. They get, they don't want to do that.
And there is place for a classroom kind of thing. We have different courses going on, and people register for those classes. They know they are coming there as a teacher-student thing. But here, because we are dealing with very new people who are just exploring Krishna consciousness, they have not yet made a decision whether they want to continue or not. They're just exploring. At this phase, a discussion is a much better idea. But once they get committed, yes, they need to get into a classroom kind of session also. So this is an example of an edification. Where, typically it's 1.5 pages. Everyone reads one by one, and then there are these questions at the end on discovery, understanding, and application. So this is an edification on the mind, for example. So there are 2 questions on discovery, what they have discovered new. The answers to these discovery are there in the edification itself. They have to just find it out. But when they say it themselves, they learn it much better than if someone else gives them the same answers. So some people may say, well, what's the point of these questions? They're right there. It doesn't, that's the purpose of discovery. Understanding, the answers are not in the edification, but it tests how much we have understood and gives a little more scope for discussion. And then the application question, which is very related to what is their takeaway. So when a person goes out of the discussion, they'll go home and they'll think, what did I get out of that? This is what they'll remember. Oh, I discovered something new. Very basic, but I discovered new. I understood what I discovered, and I know how to apply it in my daily life. Because if they don't know how to apply it, or they have not got anything application oriented out of it, they will not come back. Because everyone, once they want to come back, they will think again, what did I get from there? What did I get out of from there that I should go back? So again, these are the application-oriented questions, or some questions which you want to make on the fly. You can say, what does something mean to you? Tell us what you know about this. What stands out in this discussion? Again, that's because these phrases tell that you wish to hear their opinions rather than the correct answer, or supposed to be the correct answer. Because even in Krishna consciousness, there are many correct answers. If you see from this perspective, this is what it is. If you see from here, so suppose someone answers the question. Now you say, yes, that's interesting, good. In order to elicit other responses, you can say something like this. Are there other possible responses to that question? So someone else may come up with a different response. And does everyone agree with that? Someone else will come with another response. Or you could play a devil's advocate. You say, okay, I agree with what you said, but what if someone asked this? Then people start thinking and they start refuting that. And so
the devil's advocate part is better to be doing with a group which is at least 2 to 3 months old.
Yes.
Don't try that with new people, then the whole group will tend to become the devil. So please don't do that with a new group. If they're giving you the answers, be happy with it and move on. But if it's a mature group and if the group has been, like you're training the group members now, that they're mostly all senior members in the group, and you're training them to be future servant leaders, they would need to know what the opposite factors are. Like Srila Prabhupada, one time he was traveling with Shrudakirti Prabhu, and who was his traveling secretary, and Shrudakirti Prabhupada said, I'm going to be a Mayavadi, and you be the devotee, and you convince me that why I should become a devotee. So Shrudakirti Prabhu said, okay, I've read Bhagavad Gita, I know all the points, no problem.
I've read your books.
I've read your books only, so I'll convince you, no problem. But Srila Prabhupada actually defeated him. Shrudakirti Prabhu could not convince Srila Prabhupada, who acted in the role of a Mayavadi. Prabhupada quoted verses after verses after verses where Mayavad was, considered to be the topmost. He quoted those verses and Shrudakirti Prabhu could not refute it. And so he lost. So then Prabhupada said, okay, now we'll reverse the roles. Okay, so then Shrudakirti Prabhu became the Mayavadi and Prabhupada became the devotee. And then Shrudakirti Prabhu said, no problem, now I know all those points, I'll say that to Prabhupada. So then he started saying all those points, and Prabhupada started repeating all of those points again, and Prabhupada won again. So, this is how Srila Prabhupada trained. So when we are in a group where we are training our existing members to become future servant leaders, in such a group it makes total sense to play the devil's advocate. Because you are training your members to become leaders, and they need to know how, if they are faced with such a question, how they are going to react to that, how they will respond to that. So it makes total sense when you play the devil's advocate in such a group, but don't try it in a new group.
In the current time, if you want to play, the Jayadeva Swami is available.
Always, always. Thank you,
You
Prabhu.
defeat our argument, then he'll defeat his argument.
Yes, he's amazing.
Okay, so again, how to deal with shy people? Those who don't want to speak, we need not point them out. But the control is more of a monitoring. It's not. It's very lightly executed. That's why he's a facilitator. He's not the discussion controller. He is the facilitator of all the getting everyone's ideas. So you can reinforce their ideas. If someone has many times, the first discussion with the Simple Living High Thinking group that we had a few weeks ago, about 20 people showed up. They were completely new. We had no idea. And when the discussion was going on, everyone came up with Krishna conscious views and answers to the questions. We were just all amazed. Oh my God, are they closet devotees somewhere? Or at least 90% of it was
very, very surprising. Very surprising. Touch wood, that experience we've not had till date. That kind of experience with new people, being so apt and so accurate with their points, and them telling that, yeah, this is what we've been practicing. And well, you were there in that first group. It was amazing. Right, Anika? You were there too. And that response we've not seen till date. With a first group, with a brand new group of people. And all of them saying that, yeah, this is the kind of things that I want to practice in my life. And it was just a small little edification, but the discussion went on for 45 minutes. It was just amazing, amazing.
It was just a quote. That's all. It was not even an edification. We just used a quote. But the point being that we'll be amazed how even the new people, they come up with points which are quite Krishna conscious. Maybe 60-70% they'll be correct. They may have to be nudged a little bit, 30% here and there, and they'll come to the right conclusion. So rather than saying, no, you're completely wrong, and giving them a 100% right answer, which they may not accept anyways, try to just acknowledge their 70% and then nudge them towards the rest of the 30%. Then it helps. So reinforcement helps in a discussion. Using someone else's idea is a special form of praise. If you are having a discussion, say, as Radha Vallabh Prabhu said, or as Shyamsundar Prabhu said, that this and this, so this is the conclusion. So when the facilitator is giving the summary, he can use the points that others have said during the discussion. That encourages them and reinforces their ideas.
And the other thing, as opposed to how to deal with a shy person, how to deal with one person who is very eager in the group. As soon as you ask the question, he's the first one who raises his hand and is just answering the question. And everybody else is quiet because this person is over eager. So even though he may be new, as a facilitator, we can, step in at that time and we can say that, why don't we give others a chance also to speak. So to deal with over-eager people and to deal with shy people, we have to, draw the boundaries so that everybody gets a chance to speak.
Yeah, again, I think we discussed this, directing and distributing the delay recognizing a frequent contributor. Someone is me. All right. By addressing the entire group. So this is again, if someone else asks a question to the facilitator, he can direct it to the entire group. What do you all think about this? You can say, I have my views, but I'd like to hear from others before I share the views. So again, this is the sequencing of questions that you can do, discovery, understanding, application, we just talked about it. But if you don't have the standard edification, then you can, make up your questions based on discovery, understanding and application. One question on each, and you have a good discussion going on.
The application, typically you go around everybody or you just discover from this application?
It depends how much time you have. If it's 15 people, 15, 20 people, you go around each and every person, it becomes difficult. If you have time, you could do that. If not, then you can just ask even few people. Even if 3-4 people respond, it's okay.
Like the question, what does renunciation mean to you? You don't really have to go around the entire room. There's no need, but get a few and then that should.
Because the point is, as soon as you ask the question, everyone started thinking about it. And that is the main thing. They may share, they may not share, that's their personal opinion. But they have started thinking, what does it mean to me? Yeah, renunciation, what do I think about it? And then others say something, sometimes they agree with someone, sometimes they don't. But they've started thinking about it, that is more important.
This is a typical
Yeah.
The last one, I was talking to the last one.
Yeah, no, but this is the way the typical setup goes.
Yes.
That now that we've identified 2 obstacles in meditation, so that would be that we've identified the 2 obstacles, so that would be discovery. And we discuss the consequences of each, which might not be in the edification. This will delve deeper, into this question. It helps in understanding, the questions under understanding help us in understanding the discovery questions in much more deeper sense. And then how would you stop the wandering of one's mind during meditation? That is the way we apply it.
So if the edification is on meditation, we could use these. No one enjoys a discussion that goes on for too long. So when the interest is still high, that's when you stop it. We have burnt our fingers. Our first discussions, if any of you have attended, the veterans would go on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We would start at 11 a.m. in the morning. This was the earlier first batch, and would just go on and I would admit my idea was, unless everyone accepts and understands each and every point, I'm not going to leave them. So I would give point after point, and then there was a discussion, and they would say, and sometimes it would be just discussion between me and some other person, and others are just listening.
Really missing Raghunath Prem.
Yeah. Be enthusiastic.
But in the interest, but then people will say, well, it was a very enlightening discussion, but I don't have so much time. I cannot come next time. So you've won the battle, but lost the war. You've convinced them for today. But then the main thing, especially in Bhakti Vriksha, is regular association. Main thing is that they need to come again and again and again. That is more important. So now what we recommend doing is that 45 minutes of discussion, and there is a timekeeper. If we go discovery, understanding, application, if 45 minutes are over and we haven't covered all the questions, it's okay. We end there and we continue next week from where we left off. So that way, the timing is kept, and that's very important.
And people truly appreciate that. They'll know that yes, these people, they invited us to come to a program and they value our time. They will really appreciate you for that, and they will come back. They will want to come back because they know that you value time.
And because you ended it half, they are eager, some of them are eager to know what is the answers to the next question. So they'll come back. So you have that understanding.
So ending a discussion again, we wind up a discussion in style. Srila Jayapataka Maharaj always uses this word. We wind up the discussion in style. So the way you do it is, you summarize the discussion, congratulate the group for active participation, thank everybody. That we really appreciate that each one of you, the contributions that you gave in the discussion really is wonderful. So congratulate the group on the quality of the discussion. And any final comments before we close. And the other thing that you may also do is give them a glimpse of what's going to be the discussion next week. So that also ignites the passion and ignites their curiosity, that it will lead them to come back.
All right. Any final comments before we close?
Any questions? Comments?
We're going to outweight you.
Huh?
We're going to outweight you now.
Oh, okay.
Inclusive thing which you mentioned, discussion, very important. One comment we face in the groups regularly is philanthropic versus devotional. Prabhupada hits that very hard in his purport. A lot of people are used to the idea of philanthropic charitable activities. So that's why I think it's a very sensitive topic. They say, we feed somebody, we know devotional services, soul and eternal connection. But I think that's a comment we need to be very sensitive. Because as devotees we can go and press, right? So devotional service is the ultimate goal of the soul, you connect eternally, but charitable activities. But a lot of people are very used to charitable philanthropy.
Yeah, we actually say charity is good,
Very good.
but continue doing that. Continue doing that. We are not saying not stop doing that. Continue doing whatever charity you're doing, but add this Krishna consciousness to it.
Just say, for example, if you want to do it, if you want to give a beggar on the street, if you're motivated to give them some Lakshmi, instead of giving Lakshmi, give them Prasad, and we did this as a Simple Living High Thinking group, October and many other members of the group, they started doing this. They started buying, from Sam's, they would buy these little cookie packets, offer it to Krishna and keep it in the car, and then at the signals, just hand over one packet to them. They are actually hungry for food, so why not give them prasad? So that way you're doing charity, but you're doing, transcendental, you're doing devotional service. You're facilitating their devotional life also. So charity, philanthropic work is definitely appreciated, and Iskcon is doing that. We have the Food for Life program, and we have the other, a lot of other, flood relief programs. We have so many other programs which works in collaboration with the local authorities, and when they need help, that is being done. So, yes, but we just add the aspect of Krishna, the element of Krishna into that charity.
So typically in a Bhakti Vriksha program, there are 6 aspects of the gathering. In a regular Namahata gathering, what is the format that we have?
When we have a home program.
Speaker and listen.
What's the
but
format?
what is the structure? What happens from such time?
Kirtan.
First starts with Kirtan, right? Then, well, that's for Bhakti Vriksha, but a home program. Let's start, and we want to compare Bhakti Vriksha with the home program. So we have, we can maybe.
We first have Kirtan.
little bit.
Okay.
Zero.
First
Let the
is,
devotee
okay,
come.
0 is socializing.
That's the road. Beat it.
Social time.
So,
Then kirtan, then
Introduction of speaker,
Introduction.
speaker, lecture.
the lecture, right?
Which includes introduction of the speaker
Yeah.
and all.
Then,
Q&A.
yeah, either
Q&A.
yeah, question
Q&A.
answers.
Yeah, you can write Q&A.
Okay.
Then-
Prasadam. Or maybe sometimes there's again kirtan and then prasad.
Aarti.
There's 5 minutes kirtan, then followed by prasad. Again social answer. Right. Good one. Social art. Okay.
So in Bhakti Vriksha, of course, we start with kirtan. So by the time people come, maybe depending on this thing, it's 20 to 30 minutes of kirtan. And then the next part is icebreaker. So the next we start is with icebreaker, which is a question which doesn't have a right answer, but it encourages discussion. It sets the mood for discussion. Like last time we said, if it's a gathering of devotees having Bhakti Vriksha, you can ask, what will you do if Prabhupada comes in right away, right now? How would you receive him? So what happens is everyone starts thinking, oh, what will I do? And they are physically here, but mentally they are still in the grocery store from where they came from, or from home, or from work, or so many places. But when they are forced to think and share their view, they come back into the program. And also, when the facilitator, they introduce themselves, they tell the answer, and the facilitator doesn't cross-examine or judge, and everyone just encourages, claps them. They are like, wow, okay, my views are appreciated here. So,
And also sometimes, we tend to feel that, okay, the group has been meeting now for 6 months or 1 year and everybody knows each other, there's no new member in the group, let's skip the icebreaker. That day, out of our personal experience, we've seen that the discussion is not that lively. Because always remember, icebreaker is a necessary factor for any discussion, whether the group be, with new members or with senior members of the group. You need an icebreaker question to bring back everybody in, physically, mentally,